Just get that from my face. If you'd put the camera down because you're going to be searched, okay, for this moment.
Welcome to the Audit Assessor. Over here, we break down encounters between the public and the police. We examine the law, the conduct, and the context so you know your rights, their responsibilities, and where the line is drawn. Thanks to User 1 for letting us cover and break down this police audit. Make sure to subscribe to his channel and like his videos. His link is in the description below. User 1 is standing outside the MI6 headquarters in London, doing what thousands of tourists and passers-by do every year, pointing a camera at one of the most photographed buildings in the country. The moment officers notice him, though, the tone shifts sharply. Rather than starting with a normal conversation, they move straight into treating the situation like it already needs policing. From there, the situation snowballs into officers leaning on powers most people would never expect to be used in a moment like this. And the encounter quickly becomes less about what he's done and more about how far they're willing to take it.
User 1 is standing outside the MI6 headquarters in London, doing what thousands of tourists and passers-by do every year, pointing a camera at one of the most photographed buildings in the country. The moment officers notice him, though, the tone shifts sharply. Rather than starting with a normal conversation, they move straight into treating the situation like it already needs policing. From there, the situation snowballs into officers leaning on powers most people would never expect to be used in a moment like this. And the encounter quickly becomes less about what he's done and more about how far they're willing to take it.
Hello, I've just had a report from two members of the public. Just get that from my face.
Back a little bit.
No, I've had two reports from two members of the public saying that you've been here. They think your actions have been quite suspicious, videoing the security centre over on the right-hand side there. Could you tell me what your business is here today?
I'm just testing my camera.
You're testing your camera. So the reason, obviously, we're speaking to you today is, obviously, at the moment, the counter-terrorism level is quite high. Do you realise that? Did you realise that was a question?
There hasn't been an attack for a few years now, no?
No, but the threat level is still considered to be quite hard. It's generally quite in the news, but if you're not, I've just educated you the fact that it is.
Yeah, cool,
okay,
man.
you understand that.
Cool.
And obviously some of the tactics that these people employ, unfortunately, is sort of reconnaissance. It's much what you're probably doing, taking some form of video footage.
I'm not doing reconnaissance.
On cameras. Okay, but you can understand that your actions at the moment do look like that. Do you understand that?
I understand that you think that, yeah, but it's not the fact. It's not the truth. I haven't got any sinister intention.
Okay, cool. What's your name, please, buddy, so I can just confirm who you are?
I'm not prepared to give my name.
Well, if you can allow me to confirm who you are, then I can establish your identity, and in which case, after that, then I can confirm the fact that you may or may not be obviously doing what you're doing reasonably.
Even after User 1 explains he's simply testing his camera, the officers don't slow the interaction down. Instead, they jump straight to the familiar justification of the current counter-terror climate and start talking about reconnaissance, a serious label to attach to a camera pointed at one of London's most recognizable landmarks. That leap says a lot about the mindset at play. Filming a building that's photographed daily by tourists suddenly becomes something sinister purely because a call came in saying someone looked suspicious. Instead of checking whether the behavior matches the claim, the conversation quickly turns toward getting User 1's personal details, not because a specific offense has been identified, but because that would give the officer a way to justify the stop after the fact.
Because if you don't confirm who you are, then that's going to put some doubt around your identity, in which case that's going to start to make me a bit more suspicious about your actions, about what you're doing here today. However, if you're willing to give me your name and I can identify who you are, then we can take a step forward about what you're doing is reasonable or not. So, one, can you give me your personal details, and two, do you have any photographic ID, please?
I don't have any photographic ID, and I can't give you my details. I'm in a public place.
I'm going to explain it just one more time for you, okay?
Yeah, okay.
So, obviously, your actions have been reported to me by two members of the public. It's deemed to be suspicious. I've told you around, obviously, the threat level in terms of terrorists at the moment is quite high.
I'm not a terrorist.
So, I'm telling you that's the threat level. I'm not saying whether you're a terrorist or not. I'm also telling you, obviously, your actions around one of the main security buildings in London is also deemed to be suspicious, and an easy way for me to establish whether or not what you're telling me is the truth would be to establish your identification. So at the moment, you're making me a lot more suspicious and starting to sort of ground up a few more grounds of whether or not I think what you're doing is reasonable or not.
I'm not doing nothing wrong. I'm in a public place. I've got no sinister intentions. I understand what you're saying. This looks suspicious. I'm not prepared to give my name.
You're not prepared to give me that?
No, and I won't change your mind either.
What really stands out here is how the officer starts treating privacy itself as a warning sign. User 1 choosing not to volunteer personal information is framed as if it somehow confirms suspicion, which turns the logic of the interaction upside down. In a public setting, people are generally free to go about ordinary activities without having to identify themselves unless a specific power requires it. And in this case, the officer hasn't even named a power that would compel those details. The claim that the only way to check whether User 1 is telling the truth is by obtaining his identity isn't how accountability works. Officers are expected to rely on observable behavior and lawful grounds, not on whether someone agrees to hand over their name.
So you're going to be stopped and searched under the Terrorism Act, okay?
Right.
Do you understand that?
I understand
okay.
fully.
That's in your property with that name and address. Is that you? And if it's not, why have you got it?
Yeah, that's me, yeah.
That's you. Fantastic. Have you got a date of birth, please? You have, right? And what is your name and address, please? So I can confirm that's you, as opposed to... So what's the name and address on it?
I'm telling you, that's me. I know the address on it. I'm not giving you my details. I've confirmed that's my name and address. I've gone further than I wanted to. I know the name and address on there, man. I'm not confirming it.
Then I don't know that's you. If you can't...
Well, it is me. Well, you can arrest me then, can't you? And we'll sort it out back at the station. It is me. I'm not telling you.
Why are you being so difficult?
I'm not being difficult. I don't know. I'm exercising my rights.
Okay.
You've got ID. It's in my bag. You can run a name check. You've got what you wanted.
The moment User 1 refuses to hand over his details, the tone changes and the officer suddenly shifts to using stop and search powers. What's troubling is the sequence. Physical control is taken first, and only afterwards is the Terrorism Act mentioned as the justification. Under Section 43 of the Terrorism Act, officers can search someone if they reasonably suspect involvement in terrorism. But that power isn't meant to be a shortcut to regain authority in an argument. It also allows a search for items connected to terrorism, not a free pass to start reading through someone's personal paperwork or correspondence. While the officers continue pressing for his identity, User 1 points out the obvious alternative. If they truly believe an offense has occurred, they can arrest him.
Some Arabic film scripts as well. Any idea why you would have that? Bearing in mind, you've already said you don't understand what it says.
You chuck that and that through intelligence as well, please, mate.
Just let you know, we are also recording, so feel free to stop because we've got it all as well. It's entirely up to you.
Oh yeah, but the only difference is if I make a freedom of information request, I won't get it.
I don't know what you're allowed and what you aren't.
No, you're not allowed it, so I'd rather have my own documentation if that's okay.
No problem at all.
You're still here because effectively what we've obviously gathered is there's a piece of property that may or may not belong to you. So
It belongs to me. I'm telling you, it belongs to me.
Just to let me finish,
Sorry,
and I can
sorry.
explain to you. So we're investigating obviously a matter of whether or not that's a case of handling stolen goods or not.
Yeah.
The other matter is obviously some of the scripture I've seen in there and still your actions I feel to be suspicious. So obviously going to be investigation around these sort of the terrorist sort of activities, okay, that you may or may not be involved in. That's why you're still being detained. A reasonable
I didn't even want to commit a reasonable normal person.
A reasonable normal person would be able to provide me their name and address and be able to tell me what's on that sheet of paper.
Well, I'll do it back at the station, won't it?
Okay.
A sheet of paper with Arabic writing on it suddenly becomes a point of concern with talk of running it through systems, as if the language itself signals a threat. That kind of reasoning says a lot about the direction the stop has taken. When that doesn't lead anywhere, attention shifts to a letter he's carrying, and within, the suggestion appears that it might not belong to him, which somehow turns into talk of stolen goods. There's no evidence driving these ideas. They're being built purely around the fact that User 1 won't confirm anything about himself. Even calling him abnormal or unreasonable for keeping his identity private ignores the basic point that declining to volunteer personal information isn't an offense.
Confirm that they are identical.
Yeah,
so if you can confirm that and it matches up, then that's a very quick way to identify you. But if you're not willing to cooperate with that, if you're not willing to tell me a little bit about yourself, then I can't confirm that the person we've got on the computer is you. So again, you've got that now third opportunity, another way that you could confirm who you are, your identity, in which case would avoid a lot more impact on you.
You're itching to arrest me. You might as well just get on with it.
I'm not, to be honest.
You might as well just get on with it. I'm not confirming anything. I'm not confirming or denying anything. How's it go?
Even after the search produces nothing, User 1 is still kept there which immediately raises the question of what grounds are left to justify holding him. Instead of releasing him, the explanation starts shifting again. Now, there's talk about possible theft based on a letter they can't connect to any offense, while at the same time the officers point to Arabic writing on a piece of paper and try to link it to terrorism concerns. That's a serious problem, because the presence of Arabic language or religious scripture on its own cannot be used as grounds for terrorism suspicion. Treating a language or a piece of writing as evidence of extremist activity isn't policing based on behavior or facts. It's speculation.
Well, the only thing I can prove is I'm not handling stolen goods. Who cares about that if you've pulled someone up with terrorism? Who cares about the handling stolen goods?
I could start looking into who you are, confirm who you are, in which case it could help actually.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can confirm I'm not handling stolen goods, but I might be a terrorist. Yeah, right.
There's some marked scars on you that, if you want to show me your right arm, that'd be great. I'll take your jacket off if you wouldn't mind. Okay,
You want me to?
you don't need to do that. That might confirm it's you. I need to see your whole arm.
Just swap around that way.
There we go. And also the back of your head.
Back of my head?
Yeah.
By this stage, the interaction has clearly turned into a pressure tactic. The message becomes simple. Give your details, and you can leave. Refuse and arrest is on the table. That isn't how the process is supposed to work. An arrest has to be justified by an offense and necessity, not used as leverage to obtain personal information. When the officers then start demanding he remove clothing to show scars in the back of his head, the situation drifts even further from the purpose of the original stop. A search power allows officers to check for items connected to an offense, not to inspect someone's body, simply out of curiosity. There's no obvious link between scars and the suspicions they've raised, which makes the request look arbitrary rather than investigative.
2 members of the public phone you.
And your point is what?
You can consider this a security audit.
Right.
And you failed big time. All of you.
So is that your intention? Is it to highlight lapses in security?
Not necessarily, but I think I just have.
You're
Okay.
displaying isn't normal behaviour in my mind. I've been doing policing probably for the last, excess of 20 years, so I'm fairly experienced.
You sound like a nice guy.
Sort of behave and react.
Yeah.
And this just doesn't seem quite normal.
Want to waste your time as much as we don't want to waste our own time. That's why we can't understand why.
Well, we're waiting on CCTV now, aren't we?
Stolen goods aspect to this, which now we know didn't exist, but at the time, because of you not being very cooperative, it made it very suspicious.
What becomes clear here is that the entire encounter is being driven by the initial phone calls rather than anything the officers themselves have actually observed. A report from the public can justify checking on a situation, but it doesn't automatically convert into grounds to detain someone or treat them as a suspect. Instead of identifying a specific offense or behavior that meets a legal threshold, the officer falls back on saying the situation isn't normal in his view. That's a problem, because policing powers aren't supposed to be based on personal impressions. The moment an officer relies on what feels unusual to them rather than what the law actually requires, the line between suspicion and opinion starts to disappear. Even waiting for CCTV to see whether something might eventually appear only underlines that point.
2 members of public approach us, which is why you initially stopped today. Do you understand that bit?
We understand.
Okay, so the second bit is where you're filming, obviously the entrance, as like my colleague pointed out, a number of members of public come in. Should complaints come in, and they haven't as yet, I'll be quite clear in that, no one's made a complaint as yet, but should a complaint come in around the fact that they feel either intimidated by that, or they find that your behaviour is either threatening, alarming, or is going to upset them in some way, then there could be some other offences that could be considered. So you could be liable to offences under the Public Order Act, or effectively breaching the Queen's Peace, both of which are arrestable, and you could end up at a police station. So just something to consider.
Because under the Terrorism Act,
I've never been stopped under the Terrorism Act.
Footage under the Terrorism Act.
I'll never. You need to film this. You need to review
the footage on there, mate. Yeah, because we need to be happy about what you're filming. Okay, and unfortunately, we will be viewing it now.
You want to do that now?
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
The final step in the encounter, according to user one's own description, is the seizure of his camera. That matters because taking someone's recording equipment is a serious step that normally requires a clear legal grounds. Cameras can be seized if they're believed to contain evidence of a specific offense, but the officers had already spent the entire interaction struggling to identify one. Up to that point, their reasoning had shifted repeatedly from terrorism to possible theft to public order to breach of the peace. What stands out across the whole interaction is how quickly the officers moved away from observable behavior and into assumptions. A report from the public became the starting point for suspicion. But rather than verifying whether anything unlawful had actually taken place, the encounter kept expanding into new possibilities whenever the previous theory failed. Ordinary things, a camera, a letter, a language on a page were repeatedly treated as if they might carry hidden meaning. By the time it ends, the picture that's left is uncomfortable. A person filming in public is taken through a full escalation. The interaction grows heavier the longer it goes on, not because new evidence appears, but because the officers keep widening the net in the hope something will justify the stop. When an encounter evolves like that, it stops looking like careful policing and starts looking like power being stretched far beyond what the situation ever required. I couldn't find any follow-up on what happened after they reviewed the footage, and there's no information showing whether user one went on to make a claim. If you found value in this breakdown, make sure you like the video, share it, and subscribe to support the channel and help keep this kind of accountability in the spotlight. I'm the Audit Assessor. This was episode 22. See you guys later.